think about wide receivers on a football team or in a secondary, right? So you got your safeties, your corners. They're competing against one another, but they're on the same team, right? They're competing for interceptions. They're competing for tackles. They're competing for catches. They're competing for, there's all different things they're competing for because they're also getting paid and all that kind of thing, all right? But they're also working together to a common goal.
The winning game.
Right. So it's not that competition is bad. I mean, now this is where we're going into yin and yang here. Cooperation and competition can exist copacetically, as you will, in a synchronistic way, that it actually works. And by fighting each other, by competing against each other instead of cooperating in competition, we're actually holding ourselves back in quite a bit of ways.
I haven't looked at it that way, but yeah, now that you mention it, yeah, that's so true. Yeah. That's thinking outside the box.
Yeah, it's a little yin-yang. Yeah. Thinking in the circle.
Well, yeah, well, it's using the principles to come up with a better idea. And yeah, there you go.
That's it. Yeah. Well, that's one of the things. That's when you tell... One of the things that always to be said that is very controversial is when someone says... so my version of this, my iteration, is that society is an illusion. Right? Now, the first thing anybody says is, you want to go back to the caveman days? No, not at all. I love this view. We wouldn't have these views without the bridges, without the houses, the architecture. We wouldn't have this clearing. We wouldn't have these shoes and clothes, and we wouldn't be able to do this. And so I like all that. But by an illusion, it means I recognize the fact that outside of our minds, it doesn't exist. It's imaginary. It really is. There is no such thing. The sun doesn't shine on the United States any brighter than it does on Canada, depending on the time of year. But at the border itself, or Mexico, if you're on the Rio Grande, the sun shines the exact same on the Mexican side as it does the United States.
It does.
Right. So the universe doesn't recognize the United States as an entity, or India or China or anything like that. You look at Russia. So Russia's the biggest country in the world. Well, nobody wants Siberia. So that deer, that caribou that's out there in Siberia has no idea that it's a part of the nation state of Russia. You know? Only we do. Hell, listen.
That's true.
In Afghanistan and Iraq, in the time that I was there were people that didn't know they were a part of a country named Afghanistan or Iraq.
Really?
They're nomadic.
Right.
Or they're tribal, and that is the nation they're a part of in their minds. No different than the Iroquois or the Navajo here. Yeah.
They were tribal.
That's it.
They're tribal people.
Kandahar, Baghdad certainly recognized the fact that they were a part of this geopolitical yada, yada, yada. But a lot of the people that are just hanging out there in the mountains, they don't know, and they don't care.
The people, they didn't care.
They don't care.
Yeah, and they didn't want to be involved in this
they just
big conflict that's still going on.
Just want to gather and eat. That's it, and live their lives.
A simple life without all this. Yeah.
And it's not to say that, because I am all for progress, human progress, technological progress, but society should work for humanity, not for humanity to work for it. Because once we started working for society, that was it. We lost the game. We forgot what was going on. It's no different than Tai Chi when you're going into a form. If you're trying to think about the entire form itself, you'll lose it. But if you just stay right where it's at that time, you recognize the form not as a whole, complete thing, but as the individual movements within each individual movement, then it takes on a whole different craft. You start to understand what that form is about, right? At least from a physical standpoint, and mental and rooting and all that kind of thing. So the same thing with society. When you recognize that we created society in order to better ourselves, because listen, I don't want to get eaten by the big cats, all right? And there hasn't been a lot of, well, there was that thing out in Washington, but not many people are getting eaten by big cats these days. Whereas anthropologically, tons of our ancestors got eaten by big cats.
Yes.
We were a healthy part of a balanced breakfast for a while.
We were part of the food chain. And we changed that.
We did.
We changed it.
Which is funny. I was listening, audio booking, a book called, I think this one was Homo Deus, right? So the man god, if you will, right? And one of the things, this was done by Harari. He's a Israeli professor, a contemporary. He's alive today. I think he's in his mid-40s or something. He attributes humanity's erratic behavior to the fact that we went from being somewhere in the middle of the menu to the top without earning our way. Right? We picked up a rock one day and we threw it. And that drove off something. So we continued to pick up rocks. But then one day we figured we could actually hunt with that rock. And that these sticks could help us, beat that animal down and gain its nutrients. Okay, well, we go from being eaten to throwing rocks to sticks to bow and arrows to clothing to cities to armies, all within a span of a couple of 100,000 years, right? A couple of million years. But when you consider that the lion evolved over tens of millions of years, and probably from something that was left over after the dinosaurs that was already fairly a predator once we split off from the mammals. So our paranoia, our bravery that mimics the paranoia inside of us, that's all sort of an unfortunate inheritance that we've picked up because we didn't evolve into this. We took it. Thank you for joining us for that clip of our weekly podcast. If you want to get more bonus footage or join us for the entire podcast, head on over to Patreon, where our Eagle, Tiger, and Dragon subscribers get access to not only what we cast and talk about, but advanced lessons in your forms, in your Tai Chi, and in your life.